Hello, Forest Gate. Pastor Matt here with your Sunday morning sermon preview. This is supposed to go live on Friday morning at about 9 o'clock, but YouTube technology just doesn't like me, and every time I try to do it live, it just messes up. Every time I try to do a delayed posting, it just does it whenever it feels like. So, one thing I'm not good at, managing YouTube and Facebook Live. I think I'm reasonably good at reading the Bible and telling you what it says. At least I'm going to try to do that now. So I'm going to give you two quick reminders before we begin. One, worship at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Go to Forest Gate's Facebook page or our website. There's a link to get there. Second thing, on Sunday, 15 minutes after worship ends, we're going to have our first Pastors Q&A panel on Zoom. The link to that is going to be the Zoom call. It's going to be in the weekly email announcements. Why Zoom? Why a second different platform, second use of technology? So you can interact with us and ask questions. We hope you'll be able to join us 10 a.m., worship on Facebook, and then 15 minutes after worship on Zoom for the Q&A. Now, without further ado, let's read Luke 16, 1 through 13. The ESV editors call this the parable of the dishonest manager. Now, that title is not part of the original text of Scripture. He was definitely dishonest. But is that the main thing, the most important thing? Is that why he's commended, you might ask? Or is he commended for another reason, despite the fact that he's dishonest? Interesting. All right, Luke 16, 1 through 13, here we go. He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. Wasting, same word as the prodigal son who wasted his stuff. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do? Since my master is taking the management away from me, I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I am removed from the management, people may receive me into their homes. So, summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Okay, now, last week we had a parable about the prodigal son and his prodigal father and his angry older brother. It was actually pretty straightforward. This one, not so much. Multiple commentators say, this one's really hard to understand. Always great, right? But I think if we slow down, we can understand the basics of this. First off, is this manager dishonest? Yes, that title of this parable is accurate in that sense. Basically, he's losing his job, but before he has to leave the job, he gives discounts to all the customers so that they will treat him nicely afterwards. Works out good for him, works out good for the customers. What about the manager, the boss, the man he answered to, the man who just fired him? Doesn't work out so well for him probably, right? Well, nonetheless, what the manager does, is that dishonest? I think so. Jesus says in verse 8, the master, the guy's boss, he commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. And that's the key. He's not commending him because he's dishonest. Way to go, way to be dishonest. That's not it. He's commending him for being shrewd, smart, wily, wise even. It's like saying, that was so clever the way the criminals in Ocean's 11 fooled that guy. Now, they're still criminals. What they did was wrong, but it did take some smarts, some shrewdness, wisdom of a weird kind to be able to do what they did. That's the main point of this parable, is that this man is smart, even if he isn't a good person or a moral person. And then from there, Jesus makes several applications. I won't explain these in detail today. Also, I might reword these by Sunday. But basically, I think Jesus is saying, first of all, this is the point we've spent time talking about so far. First, he's saying this manager used money shrewdly, but unrighteously. That's verses 1 through 8. Second, Jesus is saying, after that, the further applications, he's saying, use money to make everlasting friends. Verse 9. Now, that might be confusing. I think the key is the everlasting part. What kind of friends are everlasting friends? Truly everlasting friends. Think about that. 3, let me back up. Number 1, he used money shrewdly but unrighteously. 2, use money to make everlasting friends. That's the second point. Third point, use money to receive a greater reward. Verses 10 through 12. Now, that's not a Wall Street strategy. I'll explain more about that on Sunday. But 3, use money to receive a greater reward. Verses 10 through 12. I'm going to turn my hand there a little bit. There we go. And then verse 4, use money. Don't let money use you. Use money. Don't let money use you. That's from verse 13. Let's actually read verse 13 one more time here. No servant can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Now keep in mind, he doesn't say, hey, it's a bad idea to serve God and money. It's a bad idea to serve two masters. He says you can't do it. No one can do it. You can't. One of them will dominate. And so make sure that the master, the true master in your life, isn't money. Your love of it, your pursuit of it, your trust in it. Don't let it master you. Don't let it use you. You need to master money, and you need to use it wisely. Because if money is your master, your love for God will fade. But as 1 Timothy 6, verse 6, and some of the following verses say, godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. Those are some things to think about between now and Sunday. See you then, and God bless you.